let's talk a little Nashville Predators. We're 1 week into November, and the Preds are 4-8-1, 15 points behind first place Winnipeg, although that's more due to Winnipeg just being a juggernaut right now. So that gap will close when Winnipeg's pace cools off. Minnesota's off to a red-hot start. Dallas is doing what they're supposed to do. Colorado has their reasons for why they struggled, but they finally seem to be finding some footing and winning a little bit more lately. So there are a lot of changes in Nashville. We've asked this on and off the last few weeks, okay, a lot of new players in there, transitional time. You see Saros maybe not off to the best start here, but it's not time to hit the panic button yet. But I feel like we're starting to get close to that, aren't we? I mean, well, what's the cutoff here? We did last year. We talked American Thanksgiving was okay, X amount of playoff teams that are in now get into the playoffs. Is that really the cutoff before we start to worry about the Preds?
I think so. I mean, they started the season off 0-5, and then they've gone 4-3-1. So they've kind of turned it around. Kind of, are going across the straight line there. Let's see if they can pick it up. The only thing that's really concerning for me is that, Saros is having a tough time here. And that's the one player, right? He's your top end goalie. He's a top line goalie. He's the one guy that you would expect to be playing well and to lead this team. And he's been struggling.
And he's just the guy you just gave a ton of money to do what he's been doing. So
I will answer Status Survival's question where he asked what team is going to make the first trade. I think it is going to be Nashville. Now, Nashville has no cap space, so that's problem number one. Problem number two, you signed all these big free agents to a lot of money, so you can't move them, right? Because you're not going to give up on them 15 games into the year. And Barry Trotz has come out and says if this team's not going to figure it out, he's going to rebuild it. I don't think he means rebuild because, again, you don't go out and spend that kind of money so you can rebuild 15 games later, right? Here's one thing, though. Nashville has 3 first-round picks this year. They have the one from Tampa Bay in that, I think it was that dreaded Tanner Jeannot trade. That one didn't work out from Tampa Bay. They also have the first one from Vegas, and I don't know how they've acquired it, but they have a first-round pick from Vegas. So they have 3 picks here. So they have some leverage if they want to go out and acquire a player. The problem is they're probably going to have to move one of those picks, and they know it. And now it's a question of, do you want to compete or do you not? Again, I don't think you go out, get all those players so you cannot compete. Now, they sit last in the NHL, right? But this team can't score goals. How much more goal scoring can you add, right? There's only so much you can do. They're not terrible. They're just not playing well. So, I don't think they're going to change coach. I don't think that's the issue here, right? You bring in a lot of new guys. Everybody's trying to get acclimated to how they got to play. But to me, I think Nashville's going to be the first team to make a move because you can't let this drag along. You cannot let this drag along, and you have to figure it out. You spent too much money in the offseason to be this bad. So figure it out, and I believe Barry Trotz will. I don't think he's going to move some of those big names, but I feel like this team is going to add. I just don't know where, and I don't know how they're going to do it. But there are smarter people than me in front office who will do the math. If the Vegas Golden Knights can circumvent the cap, I'm sure Nashville can as well. I've also been reminded that in the state of Tennessee, they have no state income tax. So I'm sure there are players who would love to move to Tennessee and take advantage of that.
Now, I mean, we're talking about, the money they spent, obviously the Saros contract, but, Philip Forsberg, 10 points out of the gate, Ryan O'Reilly, 10 points out of the gate, Roman Josi, goal and 6 assists, and just all around top-notch defenseman. Those guys doing their jobs. Gustav Nyquist mentioned before, 4 goals, 3 assists. Jonathan Marchessault, 2 goals, 5 assists. Stamkos has got 6 points, 3 and 3. So maybe you'd like the pace of 2 of those guys to be a little bit better, but not too bad overall. It's just they're, and where do they make that upgrade? Do they need more of a presence up front? In that bottom 6? Do they need maybe another puck mover in that blue line? Because Yossi Shea is a good top pairing. It starts to get a little thin after that, though. So maybe that's an area they look to improve. They're gonna have to, like you said, they don't have a ton of cap space, so they may have to. And, the first round picks are absolutely appealing, but they're gonna have to figure out a way to maybe clear that space and maybe have a team take a little more to make that space. But like you said, something's got to change soon. There's too many expectations in Nashville this year. Winnipeg's playing really, really well. Like we said, Minnesota, maybe they come back down to earth, but they've at least look like a good team right now. Dallas, we know what they are. There's only so many spots. Colorado starting to come out of it.
On paper, it kind of leading into the season, I think you would probably put Nashville up there in top 3 of teams that had the best offseason with all the moves that they made. So
Yeah, I would put them there.
yeah, let's like you said, Adam, let's see, as we get to Thanksgiving where this team's at, because that's really where and I know the Oilers had a crazy, crazy run, but that's kind of where the Oilers really started to make their run, was right around, I think, Thanksgiving last year.
I mean, I don't know if if they can't make a trade, is there a coaching? I mean, I don't think a coaching change is necessarily in order. The thing that jumps out at me is a 7.3% shooting percentage, which ranks pretty low. I think that's dead last in the league. If it's not, it's down in the bottom of 5. Power plays at almost 21%. That ranks for 13th in the league. You'd like it to be a little bit better with the 2 guys you added this offseason, but that's not the worst thing in the world. They have the top penalty kill in the league. So, I mean, that's not the problem either. So, again, maybe it's just patience. Maybe it's just guys are gripping the stick too tight and just, it's the puck's not coming off the stick the right way when you see shooting percentage that low. But I think maybe some more offense needs to be generated from the back end. But like you said, a change is coming in Nashville soon, like Chris said, because you can't let this get too far down the line.
It has to come from the back end, because like I can't imagine them adding more players to it. Like, the one problem for me here is, right, you look at Jonathan Marchessault, right, 4.9% shooting. It's not going to cut it, especially when he's a player who takes a decent amount of shots. Roman Josi as well. He has 57 shots on goal. He has 1 goal. That's a 1.8 shooting. I get he's a defenseman, but you can't be taking 57 shots on goal and like none of them finding the back of the net, right? Like, I get it'll come at some point. Maybe the looks are not as good. Maybe there's something there. Like I said, like you said, right? The power play maybe a little bit better, but defensively on the penalty kill, they're good. They're not great defensively, but they're not terrible. And yes, UC Saros has to get better. The solution is probably in that room, right? Like they're not bad. They're just not playing well. And those are 2 different things. This isn't a terrible team. This is just guys not doing what they need to do. And sometimes you need to go out and inject something into that lineup. I don't think it's going to be a forward from like the back end. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a defenseman. And like you said, someone who can move the puck, because it can't just be just Josi every night, right? You need a defenseman who can move the puck. The problem is how many of those are you going to find, early November?